Shattered Space is finally here, and we won't mention any spoilers. Welcome to the Starfield with Normal People podcast. Welcome to episode 42 of Starfield with Normal People. My name is Duane, and I am joined, as always, by Michael. Michael, how are you this week?
I'm doing great. Honestly, in our Discord server, it feels like the week before Christmas.
It does. There's excitement brewing.
Everyone is so hyped up for Shattered Space. I want to make it very clear because this is going to go live the day after Shattered Space launches. So you should know we are recording this right before. We're recording this a few days before.
That's right. Yeah, our future selves are enjoying Shatter Space right now, along with everyone who's listening.
Yeah.
So we're very jealous of you.
We're very jealous of our future selves. Yeah, as you listen to this, we are playing the DLC. But yes, leading up to it, Bethesda is releasing all these pieces of content. They've been releasing new lore information about the events, kind of exactly how they did before the game launched last year.
Right. Yeah, there's been quite a few Twitter stories, I guess you could say, specifically about Varun Kai lore.
Yep.
And there was a new cartoon.
I have to say that their ability, I think it's like 2.5 minutes, their ability to tell a story with no dialogue in 2.5 minutes,
Yep.
it is absolutely beautiful. Like I felt really moved. There's a moment where the kid. We can talk about what goes on in this video, but if you haven't seen it, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. It's 2.5 minutes. It's a beautiful story.
Absolutely. They used the old school animation too. It felt like watching Transformers out of the 80s, kind of this like Japanese inspired, early hand drawn animation, which is very, very cool. And you're right, the ability for Bethesda to tell a story by showing us is so nice. You know, it harkens back to some of the early film classes that we both took at UNLV. And one thing they would always say is show me.
Yeah.
You know, instead of like having a character do all this exposition, is there a way for the character to just show us? And that's exactly what they did.
This is such a strength for Bethesda because in this regard, yes, it's an anime style video and there's no dialogue and you are seeing things happen. However, they've proven that strength with telling a story with no dialogue because we've talked about how they will place things in a room, right? You get to sort of investigate. You get to a room, you're there and like, or even Skyrim, you see a burn mark on the ground, you see a burned up skeleton or something, and then next to them is a book on fire spells. And that's like very darkly funny, right? Like you kind of get there, no one told you what happened, but you're like, oh, okay. A wannabe mage, a spell went wrong, it's clear.
Love to see those visual clues in the story because there is a lot of dialogue in the game.
Yep.
And to get an extra push forward in the story with visual, information is pretty rewarding.
The other thing that was really cool about this video was we've known ahead of time, watching the interviews and the deep dives, we've known that there was this event. We've talked about it on the podcast. Something went wrong. And this video, this animation was the first time we see the event happening.
Right.
And just the panic. Because as we know, the DLC will take you there like a couple weeks after it happened. So to get this sort of window into the moment that the people of Varun Kai, I mean, that was a big church. There was a lot of people in there.
Yeah, and we kind of got a little insight into the leader as he's standing, and he is just as shocked and surprised by the anomaly as the congregation, right?
Yep.
And then he immediately, his faith or whatever kicks in, and he fully embraces it.
Yep.
and then that emboldens the crowd, the entire crowd, to basically stay
there and pray. Yeah.
Except for our hero, the protagonist of the story, who is getting a little nervous and can sense that something is not right.
Yeah, this poor kid, he's looking around going, should we be running? Like, should we be getting out of here? But then, like, man, such a sweet moment. Like, he hugs his mom, and then she's just like, okay. Like, her instincts kick in. She's like, the best thing I can do for my kid is get him the heck out of here, right?
Yeah, there was this little flashback moment when she looks into his eyes, and then he's a baby. It was a flashback to when he was a newborn. And, that was what triggered her to make a run for it.
Like, she pushes him out of the bubble. We sort of get confirmation that this is how these people became, the blue glowing ghosts.
Yeah.
Which we figured, but nice to see it.
Watching that really made me feel like I was a kid again, because I remember sitting in church and wanting to get the hell out of there as well. So this trailer really hit home for me.
It's funny you say that, because I felt the same, but also I was reading that Emil, the lead writer of the stories for Starfield, he actually has talked about coming from a religious background and sort of applying a lot of like his own personal history to these games.
Interesting.
Whether it be Skyrim or, Starfield. So I'm really interested to see kind of how his experiences shape the story.
Yeah, I mean, you can sense a lot of world religion kind of interwoven in the story of Starfield. The classic serpent being kind of this biblical, mythological representation of evil. So, I mean, yeah, there's quite a few references, it feels like, not just to Christianity, but seems like other world religions as well.
Yeah, evil or benevolence. If you're maybe you're playing as a Varun, and and we know Andreja comes from that background, and I think it's great, because so far they were very careful. Bethesda was very careful to make sure that the enemies that you encounter are Varun zealots.
Right.
And this DLC is going to sort of give you a window into the different levels of Varun belief, right? It looks like you're also going to have your very practical, worldly, just regular folks that happen to worship the Great Serpent.
Right.
I would be very interested to find out that, like, one faction believes the Great Serpent is literal, and that another faction believes that it's symbolic.
Absolutely.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, you see this all the time, a specific religion which then has different factions within it that branch out eventually, because this group, even though we all believe the same thing, they don't quite believe this one thing, or we're just a little bit more fervent in our prayers, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you get all these factions and these splits.
Yeah, you're always going to have the group that thinks that they do a better job at the same thing that the other group is doing.
Yep. Yeah. It's just human nature.
But yeah, seeing all the hype, seeing these things get released, we're all just so ready. And not a complaint, but this is the longest, I think, in a while that Bethesda has taken to release the DLC after the main game has been released. From what I was reading, I think, like, in the past, they usually had their first DLC around like 6 months or so.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's just that wait, we're just ready. We're ready for something.
A lot of anticipation. And how many people, I've certainly read a few people in our Discord talking about taking time off, but how many people are like blocking off 2 to 3 days, taking time off, or bargaining with their spouse to try to, make sure they get enough playing time on Monday in our part of the world?
Yeah, I'll say this. I definitely don't do that anymore. There have been times in the past where I would take the day off because, you know, a game was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's different because it's DLC. I'm not worried about this, but just in general with games, there's so many times that a game will release and it's just, especially online games, like if you're playing Call of Duty or whatever, I always see people saying, oh, I took the day off and the game's not working. Like it's broken. They need to fix this. And it's just like, yeah, like unfortunately, you just shouldn't take the day off anymore. You should wait till the...
Yeah, you should wait because it's like buying the first model year of a new car, for instance, the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
When you buy the first model year, they haven't worked out any of the problems yet. The accelerator pedal's falling off and pinning the accelerator to the floor.
I feel like they worked really hard to create new problems for the Cybertruck.
The windshield wiper is 25 feet long and it's falling off in traffic.
And we know other people have mastered these things. Yeah.
It's not just the Cybertruck, of which there are 10 billion of them in Las Vegas. I don't understand what's going on here, but very popular vehicle.
For some reason, we got a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and same thing comes along with video games. A big title like that, there's going to be a lot of issues typically on the first day and even the first week. So don't bend over backwards just to try to move things around so you could play. Just let it happen organically.
I am personally excited for myself, like it going, you know, sort of opposite of what I just said. Like I wouldn't take the day off, but I happen to be in a situation where my schedule is flexible on Monday. So I will definitely, as soon as it launches, I'm going to be playing. And of course, we're going to be trying to get some content out to our people.
Absolutely. And when 10 p.m. rolls around, that's when you'll start your work day. So be it if you're up till 3 a.m.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I don't know. Yeah, all of this is a moot point because this is going live after the fact. But I was going to say, I don't know what time I don't know what time it comes out. But people don't want to hear this if it's already out.
A lot of times they'll say, oh, it's coming out then, and then you'll see the patch comes out like a day or two before.
Yeah.
I know in a couple instances that happened. So, by the way, I like the name that you came up with for the DLC, which was Shatspa.
Shatspa. It's actually more fun to say than it is to see it in typing, I think.
It looks like a dirty word, for sure.
It's it looks like a very weird high-end place, you know, to go to relax. It just hit me. I had been typing Shattered Space many times, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to shorten it. And off the top of my head, I did Shatspa, and then I tried to go back on it, and our Discord wouldn't have it. They said, no, Shatspa that's it. We've got it.
It accomplishes everything you need to in shortening a phrase like that. You know, it kind of rolls off the tongue and it's funny. So, yeah, I think it works.
Yeah, we even saw mention of Rock the Shatspa being sung.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So there you go.
Well, talking about Shattered Space, apparently someone looked into the data files of Starfield and noticed that perhaps Varun Kai was originally going to be in the Serpentis system.
Yeah.
Serpentis system, right?
Serpentis.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. It makes total sense. If you go there now, it's a stomping ground for the Varun. Yeah.
I think it's Serpentis 4 is what they figured out was actually going to be the planet.
Really?
Where everything takes place. And then I'm guessing somewhere along the development line, they figured, wow, we've got some really great story content here.
Yeah.
Let's flesh this out, make it bigger, make it more interesting.
Yeah, they've got this whole mystery about we don't know where they are. Like, yeah, if they were just there on Serpentis 4, or if it had a different name, then it wouldn't be a mystery, right? They're there, it's just... Because, like, when you have a game, you have to keep players away, you have to have tough enemies. But it's an RPG. Eventually, you'll be tough enough that you can go, fight your way in. So they had to really, really make them disappear somehow. Yeah, this is interesting though. If originally Serpentis 4 was going to originally be sort of their Aquila or their, New Atlantis.
Mm-hmm. Amazing things you can find out by dissecting the game files. I wonder what other secrets lie
I know.
in the depths of the game files there.
It's fun when there's game files that don't make sense now, but then another DLC comes out later or gets announced, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, okay, these file names make more sense now. Yeah.
Well, what's your biggest question going into the DLC? And I think this is either going to make people cringe or laugh or, be very happy for you because they're going to be playing it.
My biggest question, and I don't know if we're going to get a satisfying answer. I'm mentally preparing for this. My biggest question is, what is the Great Serpent?
Mm-hmm.
And because somebody saw something, like there's been enough, like somebody has experienced it. And is there an anomaly in space? A nebula? Is there something out there that looks like a serpent? Or is there like a creature someone saw? By the time this goes live, we will have released a new video. I don't want to say too much about it. You should go watch it, but it's regarding a character that I feel is a secret spy.
Mm-hmm.
In my research, I found out that at the star station where they were attacked, they were studying a plant. And I believe that one of the scientists that was working around this plant then had a dream of being swallowed by a great serpent. So it's like somebody's having these experiences, and what is causing it? That's what I want to know. And I don't know if we're going to get that. Maybe it's better to not know.
Right.
But at the very least, going into Shattered Space, I want at least some theories, at least some breadcrumbs.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm a little less interested in story, although that does intrigue me. And I'm more interested in gameplay. So I want to know, will we immediately get the other two vehicles that have been teased? Or will those come down the pike a little bit later? The other thing is, is there another artifact involved? Will we get another power, perhaps?
Yes.
Something like that, where your gameplay, and we talked about this in an older episode, like what if there was some killer gameplay element that they introduced that fundamentally changed the game. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
One could wish, right?
Maybe not to that degree, but they've shown in the deep dive, we're definitely getting some new weapons, which I find very cool. Like, it's not like a game changer, but it's very cool.
Yeah.
They also, before the game released, they hinted at the powers.
Mm-hmm.
They hinted that we would get some powers, but we didn't know how many we were going to get. Like, it's just insane the amount of powers that you can play around with.
Right.
I think gameplay-wise, my other big question is, will there be something in this update? And I hope so. I hope so much. Will there be something in this update that changes the rest of the settled systems?
What do you mean by that? Changes it in what way?
So I love wandering around. I love exploring. I'm hoping that if they have created new POIs, and let's say the end of this game is that people can now head out into the rest of, like, the Varun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that at the end of the story, we're like, hey, we've improved the relationships with people across the settled systems. You can now go out there and settle as well. I'm hoping that some of those new POIs sort of get updated across the settled systems.
Okay.
I guess that's sort of a POI, a mini overhaul.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. Or more encounters.
They certainly could add additional ones that we haven't seen yet. In fact, I would probably bet that they would have maybe a handful of new POIs that they could just sprinkle out into the settled systems.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Even just that, a sprinkling. I would be very happy.
You're down with the sprinkling?
I'm down. I'm thinking that I bet that random encounters with Varun, I'm betting they're going to have all the variety of the armors and stuff that we've seen in the videos.
Right. We're going to see all three factions now in the settled systems, probably, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in store for us with Shattered Space. Michael, I don't know if I'm quite ready for it. I spent some time playing this whole last week. I'm just loving the game as is right now. I'm still scratching the surface, I feel like, and I'm like, I'm not ready for a new expansion. I know you're in a different spot than me.
Yeah.
I think I felt a little pressure to go to the end of the game. I was cruising along, and then I started to progress toward the end of the game because I was like, I want to see the end. And then I went backwards. I stopped. I said, no, I want to go back and enjoy the game that I've been working toward. Like I have built this character in. So I don't know that I'm quite ready for it. So maybe I'm not anticipating it as much as a lot of hardcore, Starfield fans are. I'm excited, don't get me wrong, but I think it's just more content for me to explore over the long term.
Absolutely. And I think that's totally, that makes sense because some players are like yourself, they're just enjoying the world and they're like, you should at no point feel rushed to get through stuff. Obviously, there's the whole question of like, oh, I don't want to get spoiled on this or that, but this is definitely the type of game that you should not feel rushed on. And I actually, we've seen this conversation a lot over the last several weeks, maybe, somewhat on Reddit, but a lot in our Discord, about people prepping and quote unquote getting ready for Shattered Space, or Shatspa, as we like to call it.
They have their bug out bag ready for Shatspa.
Some people are saying I'm creating a new character. Some people say I'm getting rid of my mods and I go through the Unity, which apparently cleans your game save so that you can actually get achievements again. Didn't know that until recently. I think that's very cool. So people are getting ready in different ways, or like trying to find weapons.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Don't even get ready. Just be playing the game.
Right.
Because the whole idea, and this is what occurred to me because I was doing the same thing. I was like, oh, I need to get my relationships to a certain point that they were before I went through the Unity, blah, blah, blah. Then I realized, I was like, dude, the Star Station call for help is going to, quote unquote, in the story, it arrives without warning. So in a way, you should just be in the middle of whatever you're doing when Shattered Space happens.
Yeah, despite what I said earlier, I did actually do a little prepping. I added Andreja as my companion.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I think it's going to be more interesting with her. And I don't know, I haven't done her storyline yet. So.
Yeah. I have not spent a ton of time with Andreja, a little bit here and there. Maybe the second most character. She is very interesting, even in role play. Of course, I would take her with me because she's the connection to that world. If you were really in this situation, you would be like, okay, I'm going to be a stranger in a strange land. Please, these people, you go with me. So absolutely, like, I'm going to be taking her along for that. What I think will be really interesting later is replaying it with a different character coming along.
Yeah.
Where you're both just new to it.
I bet Barrett has some hilarious one-liners.
I mean, I recently, playing the game and playing through the pirate, storyline again, the Crimson Fleet. In the past, when I first did it, I was like, oh, I'm going to be doing some shady stuff. I can't take Sarah. I can't take any member of Constellation with me. That's just not true. I took Sarah with me this time just to do something different. And it's been totally fine. Like, as long as you're kind of keeping on the up and up, like, it's been fine. And she even has some pretty badass lines too. Yeah, it's been interesting to have someone along the line, along for the ride doing Crimson Fleet.
I can't think of anything right now except for the ragdoll video that someone posted of her. Like, it looks like a horror film. She's just kind of ragdoll floating around like the corridors, and then she's chasing an NPC. Did you see that?
Yes, I love that video.
I'll never look at Sarah again the same way. She scares me.
I think what someone did, they used console commands to animate, like they took Terramorph animations and applied it to her model.
Nice.
Yeah, very scary.
So it made her like super aggressive toward NPCs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's running around like a horror creature.
Yeah, she had like some weirdly long AI fingers too. So super creepy.
And she was aggressive, so she was even like saying her voice lines of like,
yeah,
you're gonna regret this. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, she's terrifying.
We've never seen you like this, Sarah. Well, that is enough Shatspa talk for now, Michael.
Yes, we'll have much
since
more.
We can't play the expansion yet. Yeah. We're going to move on.
We'll have much more to say in the future.
Mm-hmm, for sure. You know, I ran into a Reddit thread because I was looking up most annoying quests in Starfield.
Right.
Because I had just played Entangled. And would you believe that is one of the most annoying missions as voted by Reddit at large? And I happen to agree with them. But I wondered if you remember. I think it's mandatory because I think it's like the final artifact or one of the last artifacts that you have to get. So it's like a storyline mandatory mission.
I find this fascinating.
I just completed it this morning. I actually started it last night, got about 80% through, and then logged back on this morning and finished it up. But yeah, I mean, I think what annoys people, or what annoyed me, maybe I should speak from is that they reused the much maligned bubble mini game. On one hand, that's the game mechanic. You see that, it's going to like warp you to another nearby bubble thing. So I understand why they would use it, but it almost felt like a cheap tactic. And it was also like, while I appreciate that they wanted to make it a puzzle, because if you're not familiar with it, basically it's a parallel universe that takes place within the same science outpost. You go back and forth between the two timelines, and one room is blocked in one timeline. You have to warp into the other timeline to progress in the level. But what's confusing is a lot of times there's not a clear way forward, which is, again, understandable because it's a game, right?
Yeah.
But it's still frustrating.
I feel I need to jump in because I've seen the mission Entangled also highly praised by other players. I've seen a lot of people saying, wow, I wish more missions were like this. I think maybe because of how like just interesting it is and how dynamic it is.
That I agree. I think the storyline is fantastic.
Yeah.
I was definitely
story-wise,
into it. The gameplay, or the level design, I guess, is maybe the point of contention.
Well, okay, so I see that. I definitely see that. Yeah, I was like, I better jump in because I think there might be some listeners going, wait, I love Entangled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely in between because I love Entangled for story, but I don't necessarily have a problem with the gameplay in that, like, I like a good puzzle and I like to, having to figure it out. But I will admit that on subsequent playthroughs, if I am able to skip that mission, I don't really miss it. I will say that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Royal Veterinarian 601 on Reddit says, I stopped playing the game because of that mission.
That's unfortunate. But
it is.
Okay.
It is. And I think it's, hyperbole, but I don't know.
I mean, get through it. You can get through it. It's...
Well, here's the thing. As soon as I wrapped my mind around, hey, I need to look around and see how this building is laid out, because it's laid out in the same exact way in the alternate timeline. However, the the fauna have burrowed holes, or the explosion has caused a few different routes. Essentially, it's the
Yeah.
same. It's the same building. So once I wrapped my head around that, it became much easier to. Because at first I was like backtracking, and I thought, oh, is there just
Yeah.
which bubble do I go in? It was kind of confusing, but
I agree that like once you wrap your mind around it, it's sort of like, okay, progress. Like this is how I played it. It's like progress, progress, progress. That door's blocked.
mm-hmm.
Okay, let me find a little star bubble and now go to the alternate timeline. Oh, okay, that door's open.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most straightforward explanation of what it is. But in reality, you have enemies on
Yeah.
both sides that are attacking you and kind of disorientating you.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah, I agree. I will say, like, lore wise, what's really interesting was when I went back and played that mission a second time, I remember thinking, wait a minute, uh, these are the same things as in the temples. So, regardless of the fact of how much people don't like the star bubble chasing game in the temples, and I don't disagree. Regardless of that, I'm only speaking from lore. I found it kind of interesting. I was like, whoa, when you play Entangled, and every time you go into one of those, you switch to another world or another timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So then I thought, how crazy would that be? Now think in the temple. Every time you hit one of those things, are you actually switching to another timeline? You don't even know it?
Ooh, never considered
That's
that.
what I started to think. And I was like, that would be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If like the entire time you were actually switching between timelines and like you were none the wiser.
That kind of makes sense, because the temple, you wouldn't be able to tell, right? It's the same in both timelines.
Because it's the same.
Or multiple timelines if it's more than one, but something is fundamentally changing with the rings and leading you to the artifact. So
yeah, my counterpoint to that would be it's that inside the temples, it's sort of like contained. And I wonder, when you go into those temples, are you like, there's no gravity, right? Is it somehow disconnected? Is it its own thing? Are you between realities already when you're inside there? There's so much.
Yeah, it's like Contact. Remember Contact with Jodie Foster?
Yeah.
They build the space travel machine, and they decide to put a chair in it, and the chair shakes apart and is destroyed, but because it doesn't belong, it's not in the design, right? It's just an open space that you float around. Same thing with the temple. Like, you're inside this temple, there's no gravity. Definite Contact, like shout out, I would say,
Sort
from the
of,
designers.
yeah. Yep.
Do you have a mission that you absolutely despise? You've been through 7 or 8 times through the story, right?
I'm on about 6, I think. I'm on, or yeah, maybe 7 because I'm on New Game Plus.
Or do you have
6.
one that you love? Let's keep it positive too. I mean, like, if you have one that you absolutely adore.
We've talked about the handcrafted elements in some of these, many of these missions. And so seeing these sort of like places that they're special. They're special to just that storyline.
Yeah. Crix with the pirates, that whole storyline is really fun.
Yeah, Crix's legacy is
Crix's
a very
legacy.
cool storyline. I love how the faction quests, definitely each one of them is sort of like its own game. I think I've only done the Ryujin storyline maybe twice, and I remember not I just haven't felt a desire to go back to it again. Whereas the UC storyline, that's one where you make some big discoveries. I've heard some people saying that the UC quest line could have been the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
Ryujin, I don't know. I will say this. I've seen some people post in our Discord that Ryujin is one of their favorite storylines.
Mm-hmm.
And it does make me want to play again and see if I'm missing something. Once you're in with them, they have their own mission board too, with more randomly generated corporate espionage stuff that you can do. I have to tell you, I've never done a single mission on one of those boards. Once.
Yeah.
Because I've never had that desire.
I feel like all those are mop-up missions that I'll do years down the road after I've kind of gone through the expansions, gone through the main storylines, gone through all the characters. Like, oh, there's always a mission over here that I can go do that is still fresh.
I've seen the comparison made that this is Starfield's version of the Thieves Guild from Elder Scrolls.
Oh, okay.
And I can see that because Thieves Guild is all about get in quietly, take this thing or plant this thing, or you can even forge their numbers and then leave. And it's usually try to not kill anyone. And so I definitely see how Ryujin is that.
That sounds super boring.
Yeah. A long time ago, I remember I had played tons of Grand Theft Auto. I had run around, murdered everyone in the streets. I'd already done that a ton of times. And then after doing that, there's that lawful playthrough. I don't know if you've ever even attempted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're literally stopping at the stoplights, right?
Yeah. And trying, and even more importantly, during car chases, trying to make sure you don't hit anyone, right? Mm-hmm. And that actually makes it a lot of fun because then when your car does hit someone, it's just oh no,
Right.
It's much more fun. Maybe there's a place for starting a new character in Starfield as a, you can't play as a pacifist, really, not through the whole game. It just wasn't designed that way. But maybe I'll try this. I will create a new character that doesn't want to kill anyone, goes to work for Ryujin, and does corporate espionage. Maybe then it will be fun.
Oh, I got a suggestion. I know you hate Melee, but in the Melee...
I don't hate it, but...
Right. In the physical tier, you can knock down enemies, and they will become permanently knocked down. They won't die, though. So you could...
Yes.
Still get through stuff, probably, unless you have to absolutely take somebody out. But most of the enemies that you encounter could be, I mean, I haven't opened up that tier yet, but it's level 4 on one of them. You have a really good chance to knock them down.
Yeah, you knock them out.
Yeah.
And also then later on you can unlock neuro strikes.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you're right. And while the rest of the game and the rest of the story, you do have to kill, I am pretty sure the Ryujin quest line is designed as a no-kill quest line, if you want to. And as you know, I'm a huge Hitman fan.
Yeah.
And I know that Hitman is all about killing, but what people don't realize if they haven't played it, it's all about killing only your target.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise... the game is so much fun.
It penalizes you.
Yeah, it penalizes you for killing anyone that's not a target. Having to not kill anyone doing a run like that can be extremely fun. I think you're right. I think, for a while now, I've wanted to do a Melee character. There's going to be some new Melee stuff coming with Shattered Space.
Yep.
So I feel like after I've played Shattered Space... I've wanted to already start a new character that's Melee focused. I want to give that another shot.
It seems like Melee's a big part of Shattered Space because of the enemy types that they showed off with their hand blades and and swords and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
feels like there's a lot of up close personal fighting to be had. So you were like P. Diddy on your Grand Theft Auto playthrough because you just kind of got tired of one thing. So you had to move on to something new.
Maybe not. Maybe not. You were like P. Diddy is a way to start.
It can't be a compliment, can it? When you start off a sentence like that,
be in
there's
any
no
way.
possible way now. Maybe 3 months ago.
Oh man, Kesha's just kicking herself for having that line. She's got one of her songs is like, "Wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy." It's like, she's not playing that at any concerts. She's not playing that at any concerts anymore.
So that's what brushing your teeth with vodka gets you.
Oh man.
But yeah, I've done that to where you're almost inventing a new way to play Grand Theft Auto, because when it's designed for the completely opposite way to play it. If you go through completely lawful, you start seeing all these funny things with NPCs literally try to attack you, and you're like, I wasn't even doing anything, bro. Like, you're trying to start a fist fight with me, and like, I didn't even do anything.
I have been actually...
Or the cops will like rear end you and push you off the road when you're like stopped at a red light and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can see how it's really not designed that way. And, Starfield and most Bethesda games are designed to... You're supposed to find different ways to play. Everyone's supposed to be playing the game differently. Mm-hmm. That's just how it's made. And similar to that point, recently, I haven't put it together yet, but I kind of wanted to do like some more nature stuff for our channel. So it's sort of an underdeveloped idea, but I have to bring it up because to that point, there's so many times when we land on a planet, we see alien fauna and we pull out our rifle and we're just like, it's free XP time, right? Just start blast, 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 blast.
We've talked about feeling guilty about just pointless murder for XP. I guess it's not pointless at that point, but...
Right, yeah. But then recently, I was like, let me see how close I can get to some of these creatures without them getting aggressive. Mm-hmm. And similar to the GTA lawful playthrough, I'm finding there's quite a few animals that will let you get pretty close and sort of like they do start acting different in different ways when you're not just running at them and shooting. So it can get really fun. Yeah, you can't do full pacifist, but I think I do want to try a Starfield character that is not a killer. We've talked about doing science characters where you bring along a well-armed companion as a bodyguard.
Right.
So they do all the killing.
Yeah, I think it has been fun driving around in the Rev 8, and it feels like Jurassic Park. You're driving through some of these bigger creatures, and they're not aggressive. So you're just kind of like, like I said, feels like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And then when you accidentally fire the laser weapon, then it turns into Jurassic Park.
Then it turns into Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Should we wrap up?
That's pretty good. We should wrap up. Let me just get a sip for the end. I was too lazy to get a cup of water. I could have just gotten a cup of water.
I was like, why didn't you get a cup of water? I was thinking that. Like, what are you walking over to the sink and like...
I go over to the sink, I just get a quick...
Nuh-uh.
That's what I've been doing.
It's because you hate washing dishes, huh?
It's funny, because my wife, like, everyone in my family, like, will only drink, basically, the filtered water. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, yeah, I do that, like, 90% of the time, but... It's like, the tap water is fine.
Well, the tap water is just the low point of the gutters from the Las Vegas Strip is just all the tourist sweat like collected into a big pool and then put into our tap water. So that's why you have to use...
I mean, it makes me stronger.
Well, Michael, we got some great comments on our Starfield After 1 Year, What's Changed video. That was our last podcast. The Whiz Bang says, yes, the Starfield radio is amazing. I just discovered it recently in the Discord as well. And wow, if anyone hasn't checked it out, it's a must for any Starfield fan. Thanks for bringing it up. Of course, we did talk about Starfield radio. And
we did. Yeah.
How cool it is. So go check that out. Starfieldradio.com, I think. No affiliation.
If any of the creators of Starfield Radio happen to hear us talking about them, hey, reach out. We would love to chat you guys up.
Yeah, absolutely. TerrorBear5086 said the Samco shout out was hilarious. Yes, I agree.
And it was so fun.
He wants the whole game to be about him.
It was also really fun in our Discord. People that had heard that shout out were just waiting for the person that it was directed to, Cherry Bomb.
Right.
We were just waiting, and then when she finally heard it, it was very, she posted and it was very exciting.
Rachel Lauren 28 says, "Oh crap, I'm not sure if I'm normal enough for normal people gaming." You know what? You are, because it's wink wink nudge nudge. It's a little tongue in cheek. We're not all that normal.
Yeah.
So
we're as normal as we are allowed to be. We try our best.
Yeah. Atticus Galt 10 says, shocked to find a Starfield video devoid of righteous indignation. Well, here we are.
I love that comment. So funny. Yeah. Yep. I very much appreciated that. That was hilarious.
Vampire Noblesse said, a year later and still no fix or mod for the horrible 3D person camera. I saw that comment and I was like, there have been at least 3 patches for third person. Remember when you were like, one of them was like you were stuck looking left. They fixed that. There's been a couple of fixes. I'm not sure what they're referring to, but
I'm not sure either. Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. You play in third person, right? Like
I play in third person quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to dismiss this person. They do sound very salty and they use some language that's not super nice, but but I don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they mean.
They did say to fire the camera designer of Starfield and fix it.
Right. Yeah, that's the answer to everything. Just fire everyone because the one person didn't like it. It's like, what's funny to me is they say there's no mod for it either, and I'm like, really? Are you sure?
Sure about that?
There's like thousands of mods. I feel like there might be one that you could enjoy.
Well, Vampire actually sounds like a fan. I think they've played the game, and I think what they may have happened, I don't know for sure, but sometimes when I play a video game that I love and then I play another one that's a similar type of game and it doesn't have the same, I'm expecting one thing but I'm getting something else, then I'm like, wow, this terrible gameplay or doesn't have the controls I want. I wonder if is it Vampire? Is there another third person game that you're playing that you absolutely love? If so, let us know in the comments. And
we should see the comparison, and I don't mean to be dismissive. Let us know what you are comparing it to. Like, look, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be fixed. It just hasn't bothered me.
Mm-hmm. Extreme J1 says, I can't wait for the DLC. Also, great podcast, gentlemen. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I also cannot wait.
Should we thank our Patreon supporters?
Yeah, we have our Patreon, which helps us do the podcast and the channel. And we actually had a new member join at the legendary level, and that is Matt. So thank you very much, Matt. Thanks for joining. And we also want to thank all of our legendaries who are, in addition to Matt, we've got Bing Boom Bang Boom, Bergenstock, Brian, Space Cadet, Kittalahara, Rampage American X, Cherry Bomb RN, Griffin, and Zegra Rocks. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of our patrons.
Yep, thank you.
If you want to check it out, we actually have some bonuses like stickers, t-shirts, And you also get all of our content early and ad-free.
That sounds awesome.
I want to shout out one more pretty funny comment that was on our Spotify. It was on an episode that we did talking about the new Starborn trademark. So Dan says, Michael talks about finding an oasis in the desert. When I say oasis, Duane asked if it was surrounded by a, quote, wonder wall.
I already love this comment.
Well, Dan criticizes a little bit. He says, come on, Duane, it's more likely that it would have a champagne supernova in the sky.
Nice.
Enjoyed the episode. Keep it up.
That's right, Dan. You and I, we're the pun kings.
Yeah.
Keep it rolling.
Dan would be right at home, right
hanging
here.
Out. Absolutely.
Hanging out and making those jokes that fly over my head while we're recording, and then I hear it later in the edit.
Well, thanks to everyone that listens on Spotify, speaking of which, and Apple, of course, and thanks to those of you watching on YouTube. And some of the links are provided in the show notes below.
And an extra special thanks for comments and feedback. If you have a comment, suggestion, or an in-game story to share, you can leave a comment on our YouTube page or just pop into the Discord and chat with us.
If you like the show, consider dropping a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. That would really help us out.
And thanks for traveling the Starfield with us. Make sure you subscribe because we will be back for more.
Yep, and then you will know what the story is. Morning glory.